History: 1981 to 1984. Formation, early years, and Kill 'Em All. Metallica was formed in Los Angeles in late 1981 when Danish drummer Lars Ulrich placed an advertisement in a Los Angeles newspaper, The Recycler, which read, "Drummer looking for other metal musicians to jam with Tigers of Pantang, Diamond Head and Iron Maiden." Guitarists James Hetfield and Hugh Tanner of Leather Charm answered the advertisement. Although he had not formed a band, Ulrich asked Metal Blade Records founder Brian Slagel if he could record a song for the label's upcoming compilation album, Metal Massacre. Slagel accepted, and Ulrich recruited Hetfield to sing and play rhythm guitar. The band was officially formed on October 28, 1981, 5 months after Ulrich and Hetfield first met. The band name came from Ulrich's friend Ron Quintana, who was brainstorming names for a fanzine and was considering Metal Mania or Metallica. After hearing the two names, Ulrich wanted the latter for his band, so he suggested Quintana use Metal Mania instead. Dave Mustaine replied to an advertisement for a lead guitarist. Ulrich and Hetfield recruited him after seeing his expensive guitar equipment. In early 1982, Metallica recorded its first original song, Hit the Lights, for the Metal Massacre 1 compilation. Hetfield sang and played both bass and rhythm guitar, while Lars Ulrich played drums and Lloyd Grant was credited with a guitar solo. Metal Massacre 1 was released on June 14, 1982. Early pressings listed the band incorrectly as Metallica, with 2 T's, which angered the band. The song generated word of mouth, and the band played its first live performance on March 14, 1982, at Radio City in Anaheim, California, with newly recruited bassist Ron McGovney. Their first live success came early. They were chosen to open for British heavy metal band Saxon at one gig of their 1982 US tour. This was Metallica's second gig. Metallica recorded its first demo, Power Metal, whose name was inspired by Quintana's early business cards, in early 1982. The term thrash metal was coined in February 1984 by Kerrang! Journalist Malcolm Dome in reference to Anthrax's song, Metal Thrashing Mad. Prior to this, Hetfield referred to Metallica's sound as power metal. In late 1982, Ulrich and Hetfield attended a show at the West Hollywood nightclub Whiskey A Go Go, which featured bassist Cliff Burton in the band Trauma. The two were blown away by Burton's use of a wah-wah pedal and asked him to join Metallica. Hetfield and Mustaine wanted McGovney to leave because they thought he didn't contribute anything. He just followed. Although Burton initially declined the offer, by the end of the year, he had accepted on the condition that the band moved to El Cerrito in the San Francisco Bay Area. Metallica's first live performance with Burton was at the nightclub The Stone in March 1983, and the first recording to feature Burton was the Megaforce demo, 1983. Metallica was ready to record their debut album, but when Metal Blade was unable to cover the cost, they began looking for other options. Concert promoter Jonathan "Johnny Z" Zazula, who had heard the demo No Life Till Leather, 1982, offered to broker a record deal between Metallica and New York City-based record labels. After those record labels showed no interest, Zazula borrowed enough money to cover the recording budget and signed Metallica to his own label, Megaforce Records. In May 1983, Metallica traveled to Rochester, New York, to record its debut album, Metal Up Your Ass, which was produced by Paul Curcio. The other members decided to eject Mustaine from the band because of his drug and alcohol abuse and violent behavior just before the recording sessions on April 11, 1983. Exodus guitarist Kirk Hammett replaced Mustaine the same afternoon. Metallica's first live performance with Hammett was on April 16, 1983, at a nightclub in Dover, New Jersey, called The Showplace. The support act was Anthrax's original lineup, which included Dan Lilker and Neil Turbin. This was the first time the two bands performed live together. Mustaine, who went on to form Megadeth, has expressed his dislike for Hammett in interviews, saying Hammett stole his job. Mustaine was pissed off because he believes Hammett became popular by playing guitar leads that Mustaine had actually written. In a 1985 interview with Metal Forces, Mustaine said, "It's real funny how Kirk Hammett ripped off every lead break I'd played on that No Life Till Leather tape and got voted #1 guitarist in your magazine." On Megadeth's debut album, Killing Is My Business, and Business Is Good, 1985, Mustaine included the song Mechanics, which Metallica had previously reworked and retitled The Four Horsemen on Kill 'Em All. Mustaine said he did this to straighten Metallica up, because Metallica referred to Mustaine as a drunk and said he could not play guitar. Because of conflicts with its record label and the distributor's refusal to release an album titled Metal Up Your Ass, the album was renamed Kill 'Em All. It was released on Megaforce Records in the US and on Music for Nations in Europe, and peaked at number 155 on the Billboard 200 in 1986. Although the album was not initially a financial success, it earned Metallica a growing fanbase in the underground metal scene. To support the release, Metallica embarked on the Kill 'Em All for One tour with Raven. In February 1984, Metallica supported Venom on the 7 Dates of Hell tour, during which the bands performed in front of 7,000 people at the Aardschok Festival in Zwolle, Netherlands. 1984 to 1986, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Burton's Death. Metallica recorded its second studio album, Ride the Lightning, at Sweet Silence Studios in Copenhagen, Denmark, from February to March 1984. It was released in August 1984 and reached number 100 on the Billboard 200. A French printing press mistakenly printed green covers for the album, which are now considered collector's items. Mustaine received writing credit for Ride the Lightning and The Call of Cthulhu. Elektra Records A&R director Michael Alago and co-founder of Q Prime Management Cliff Bernstein attended a Metallica concert in September 1984. They were impressed with the performance and signed Metallica to Elektra and made the band a client of Q Prime Management. Metallica's growing success was such that the band's British label, Music for Nations, released Creeping Death as a limited edition single, which sold 40,000 copies as an import in the US. 2 of the 3 songs on the record, cover versions of Diamond Head's Am I Evil and Blitzkrieg's Blitzkrieg, appeared on the 1988 Elektra reissue of Kill 'Em All. Metallica embarked on its first major European tour with Tank to an average crowd of 1,300. Returning to the US, it embarked on a co-headlining tour with WASP and support from Armored Saint. Metallica played its largest show at the Monsters of Rock Festival at Donington Park, England, on August 17, 1985, with Bon Jovi and Rat, playing to 70,000 people. At a show in Oakland, California. At the Day on the Green Festival, the band played to a crowd of 60,000. Metallica's third studio album, Master of Puppets, was recorded at Sweet Silence Studios from September to December 1985 and released in March 1986. The album reached number 29 on the Billboard 200 and spent 72 weeks on the chart. It was the band's first album to be certified gold on November 4, 1986, and was certified 6 times platinum in 2003. Steve Huey of AllMusic considered the album the band's greatest achievement. Following the release of the album, Metallica supported Ozzy Osbourne on a US tour. Hetfield broke his wrist while skateboarding. He continued with the tour, performing vocals, with guitar technician John Marshall playing rhythm guitar. On September 27, 1986, during the European leg of Metallica's Damage, Inc. tour, members drew cards to determine which bunks on the tour bus they would sleep in. Burton won and chose to sleep in Hammett's bunk. At around sunrise near Dorarp, Sweden, the bus driver lost control and skidded, which caused the bus to overturn several times. Ulrich, Hammett and Hetfield sustained no serious injuries, however. Burton was pinned under the bus and died. Hetfield said, "I saw the bus lying right on him. I saw his legs sticking out. I freaked. The bus driver, I recall, was trying to yank the blanket out from under him to use for other people. I just went, don't freaking do that. I already wanted to kill the bus driver. I don't know if he was drunk or if he hit some ice. All I knew was, he was driving and Cliff wasn't alive anymore." 1986 to 1994, Newsted joins, and Justice for All, and Metallica. Burton's death left Metallica's future in doubt. The 3 remaining members decided Burton would want them to carry on, and with the Burton family's blessings, the band sought a replacement. Roughly 40 people, including Hammett's childhood friend, Les Claypool of Primus, Troy Gregory of Prong, and Jason Newsted, formerly of Flotsam and Jetsam, auditioned for the band to fill Burton's spot. Newsted learned Metallica's entire setlist. After the audition, Metallica invited him to Tommy's Joint in San Francisco. Hetfield, Ulrich and Hammett decided on Newsted as Burton's replacement. His first live performance with Metallica was at the Country Club in Reseda, California. The members initiated Newsted by tricking him into eating a ball of wasabi. The band finished its tour in February 1987. After Newsted joined Metallica, the band left their El Cerrito practice space, a suburban house formerly rented by sound engineer Mark Whitaker and dubbed the Metalli Mansion, and relocated to the adjacent cities of Berkeley and Albany before eventually settling in the Marin County city of San Rafael, north of San Francisco. In March 1987, Hetfield again broke his wrist while skateboarding, forcing the band to cancel an appearance on Saturday Night Live. In August 1987, an all-covers extended play, EP, titled the $5.98 EP Garage Days Revisited, was released. The EP was recorded in an effort to use the band's newly constructed recording studio, test Newsted's talents, and to relieve grief and stress following the death of Burton. A video titled Cliff 'Em All commemorating Burton's 3 years in Metallica was released in 1987. The video included bass solos, home videos and pictures. Metallica's first studio album since Burton's death, and Justice for All, was recorded from January to May 1988 and released in September. The album was a commercial success, reaching number 6 on the Billboard 200, and was the band's first album to enter the top 10. The album was certified platinum 9 weeks after its release. There were complaints about the production. However, Steve Huey of AllMusic said Ulrich's drums were clicking more than thudding, and the guitars buzz thinly. To promote the album, Metallica embarked on a tour called Damaged Justice. In 1989, Metallica received its first Grammy Award nomination for "And Justice for All" in the new Best Hard Rock, Metal Performance Vocal or Instrument category. Metallica was the favorite to win, but the award was given to Jethro Tull for the album Crest of a Knave. The award was controversial with fans and the press. Metallica was standing off stage waiting to receive the award after performing the song, One. Jethro Tull had been advised by its manager not to attend the ceremony because he was expecting Metallica to win. The award was named in Entertainment Weekly's Grammy's 10 Biggest Upsets list. Following the release of "And Justice for All," Metallica released its debut music video for the song, One, which the band performed in an abandoned warehouse. The footage was remixed with the film Johnny Got His Gun. Rather than organize an ongoing licensing deal, Metallica purchased the rights to the film. The remixed video was submitted to MTV with an alternative, performance-only version that was held back in case MTV banned the remixed version. MTV accepted the remixed version. The video was viewers' first exposure to Metallica. In 1999, it was voted number 38 in MTV's Top 100 Videos of All Time countdown and was featured on the network's 25th anniversary edition of ADD Video, which showcased the most popular videos on MTV in the last 25 years. In October 1990, Metallica entered one-on-one recording studio in North Hollywood to record its next album. Bob Rock, who had worked with Aerosmith, The Cult, Bon Jovi and Motley Crue, was hired as the producer. Metallica, also known as the Black Album, was remixed 3 times, cost $1 million, and ended Hammett and Ulrich's marriages. Although the release was delayed until 1991, Metallica debuted at number 1 in 10 countries, selling 650,000 units in the US during its first week. The album brought Metallica mainstream attention. It has been certified 16 times platinum in the US, which makes it the 25th best-selling album in the country. The making of Metallica and the following tour was documented in a year and a half in the life of Metallica. The tour in support of the album, called the Wherever We May Roam Tour, lasted 14 months and included dates in the US, Japan and the UK in September 1991. 1.6 million rock music fans converged in Moscow to enjoy the first open-air rock concert to be held in the former Soviet Union. It was part of the Monsters of Rock series. However, in a June 2020 interview, Lars estimated the attendance at about 500,000 during their timeslot. In April 1992, Metallica appeared at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert and performed a 3-song set. Hetfield later performed "Stone Cold Crazy" with the remaining members of Queen and Tony Iommi. On August 8, 1992, during the co-headlining Guns N' Roses' Metallica Stadium tour at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal, Hetfield suffered 2nd and 3rd-degree burns to his arms, face, hands and legs. There had been some confusion with the new pyrotechnics setup, which resulted in Hetfield walking into a 12-foot, 3.7 meters, flame during "Fade to Black." Newsted said Hetfield's skin was "bubbling like on the Toxic Avenger." Metallica returned to the stage 17 days later with guitar technician and Metal Church member John Marshall replacing Hetfield on guitar for the remainder of the tour, although Hetfield was able to sing. Later in 1993, Metallica went on the Nowhere Else to Roam tour, playing 5 shows in Mexico City. Live Shit, Binge and Purge, the band's first box set, was released in November 1993. The collection contains 3 live CDs, 3 home videos, and a book filled with writers and letters. 1994 to 2001, Load, Reload, Napster controversy and Newsted's departure. After almost 3 years of touring to promote Metallica, including a headlining performance at Woodstock, 94, Metallica returned to the studio to write and record its 6th studio album. The band went on a brief hiatus in the summer of 1995 and played a short tour, Escape from the Studio, 95, which comprised 3 outdoor shows, including a headline show at Donington Park supported by Slayer, Skid Row, Slash's Snake Pit, Therapy, and Corrosion of Conformity. The band spent about a year writing and recording new songs, resulting in the release of Load in 1996. Load debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and ARIA charts. It was the band's second number 1 album. The cover art, Blood and Semen 3, was created by Andres Serrano, who pressed a mixture of his own semen and blood between sheets of plexiglass. The release marked another change in the band's musical direction and a new image. The band members' hair was cut. Metallica headlined the alternative rock festival Lollapalooza Festival in mid-1996. During early production of the album, the band had recorded enough material to fill a double album. It was decided that half of the songs were to be released. The band would continue to work on the remaining songs and release them the following year. This resulted in follow-up album, titled Reload. The cover art was again created by Serrano, this time using a mixture of blood and urine. Reload, 2, debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and reached number 2 on the top Canadian album chart. Hetfield said in the 2004 documentary film Metallica, "Some Kind of Monster," that the band initially thought some of the songs on these albums were of average quality. These were polished and reworked until judged releasable. To promote Reload, Metallica performed Fuel and The Memory Remains with Marianne Faithfull on NBC's Saturday Night Live in December 1997. In 1998, Metallica compiled a double album of cover songs titled Garage Inc. The first disc contained newly recorded covers of songs by Diamond Head, Killing Joke, The Misfits, Thin Lizzy, Merciful Fate, Black Sabbath and others, and the second disc featured the original version of the $5.98 EP Garage Days Revisited, which had become a scarce collector's item. The album entered the Billboard 200 at number 2. On April 21 and 22, 1999, Metallica recorded 2 performances with the San Francisco Symphony, which was conducted by Michael Kamen, who had previously worked with producer Rock on Nothing Else Matters. Kamen approached Metallica in 1991 with the idea of pairing the band's music with a symphony orchestra. Kamen and his staff of over 100 composed additional orchestral material for Metallica songs. Metallica wrote 2 new Kamen-scored songs for the event, No Leaf Clover, and Minus Human. The audio recording and concert footage were released in 1999 as the album and concert film S&M. It entered the Billboard 200 at number 2 in the Australian ARIA charts and Top Internet Albums chart at number 1. In 2000, Metallica discovered that a demo of its song, I Disappear, which was supposed to be released in combination with the Mission Impossible 2 soundtrack, was receiving radio airplay. Tracing the source of the leak, the band found the file on the Napster peer-to-peer file-sharing network and also found that the band's entire catalog was freely available. Metallica filed a lawsuit at the U.S. District Court, Central District of California, alleging that Napster violated 3 areas of the law: copyright infringement, unlawful use of digital audio interface device, and the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO. Ulrich provided a statement to the Senate Judiciary Committee regarding copyright infringement on July 11, 2000. Federal Judge Marilyn Hall Patel ordered the site to place a filter on the program within 72 hours or be shut down. A settlement between Metallica and Napster was reached when German media conglomerate Bertelsmann BMG showed interest in purchasing the rights to Napster for $94 million. Under the terms of settlement, Napster agreed to block users who shared music by artists who do not want their music shared. On June 3, 2002, Napster filed for Chapter 11 protection under U.S. bankruptcy laws. On September 3, 2002, an American bankruptcy judge blocked the sale of Napster to Bertelsmann and forced Napster to liquidate its assets, according to Chapter 7 of the U.S. bankruptcy laws. At the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards, Ulrich appeared with host Marlon Wayans in a skit that criticized the idea of using Napster to share music. Wayans played a college student listening to Metallica's I Disappear. Ulrich walked in and asked for an explanation. And he responded to Wayans' excuse that using Napster was just sharing, by saying that Wayans' idea of sharing was borrowing things that were not yours without asking. He called in the Metallica road crew, who proceeded to confiscate all of Wayans' belongings, leaving him almost naked in an empty room. Napster creator Sean Fanning responded later in the ceremony by presenting an award wearing a Metallica shirt that read, "I borrowed this shirt from a friend. Maybe, if I like it, I'll buy one of my own." Ulrich was later booed on stage at the award show when he introduced the final musical act, Blink-182. Newsted left Metallica on January 17, 2001. Just as plans were being made to enter the recording studio. He said he left the band for private and personal reasons. And the physical damage I have done to myself over the years while playing the music that I love. During a Playboy interview with Metallica, Newsted said he wanted to release an album with his side project, Echo Brain. Hetfield was opposed to the idea and said, when someone does a side project, it takes away from the strength of Metallica, and that a side project is like cheating on your wife in a way. Newsted said Hetfield had recorded vocals for a song used in the film South Park, Bigger, longer and uncut, and appeared on 2 Corrosion of Conformity albums. Hetfield replied, "My name isn't on those records. And I'm not out trying to sell them," and raised questions such as, where would it end? Does he start touring with it? Does he sell shirts? Is it his band? 2001 to 2006, Some Kind of Monster, Saint Anger, and Trujillo joins. In April 2001, filmmakers Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky began following Metallica to document the recording process of the band's next studio album. Over 2 years they recorded more than 1,000 hours of footage. On July 19, 2001, before preparations to enter the recording studio, Hetfield entered rehab to treat his alcoholism and other addictions. All recording plans were put on hold and the band's future was in doubt. Hetfield left rehab on December 4, 2001. And the band returned to the recording studio on April 12, 2002. Hetfield was required to limit his work to 4 hours a day between noon and 4 p.m., and to spend the rest of his time with his family. The footage recorded by Berlinger and Sinofsky was compiled into the documentary Metallica, Some Kind of Monster, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January 2004. In the documentary, Newsted said his former bandmates' decision to hire a therapist to help solve their problems, which he felt they could have solved on their own, was really freaking lame and weak. In June 2003, Metallica's 8th studio album, Saint Anger, debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, and drew mixed reactions from critics. Ulrich's steely sounding snare drum in the absence of guitar solos received particular criticism. Kevin Forrest Moreau of ShakingThrough.net said, "The guitars stumble in a monotone of mid-level, processed rattle. The drums don't propel as much as struggle to disguise an all too turgid pace, and the rage is both unfocused and leavened with too much narcissistic navel-gazing." Brent DiCrescenzo of Pitchfork described it as an utter mess. However, Blender magazine called it the grimiest and grimmest of the band's Bob Rock productions. And New York Magazine called it utterly raw and rocking. The title track, Saint Anger, won the Grammy Award for Best Metal Performance in 2004. It was used as the official theme song for WWE's SummerSlam 2003. For the duration of Saint Anger's recording period, producer Bob Rock played bass on the album and in several live shows at which Metallica performed during that time. Once the record was completed, the band started to hold auditions for Newsted's permanent replacement. Bassists Pepper Keenan, Geordie White, Scott Reeder, Eric Avery, Danny Lohner, and Chris Wise, among others, auditioned for the role. After 3 months of auditions, Robert Trujillo, formerly of Suicidal Tendencies and Ozzy Osbourne's band, was chosen as the new bassist. Newsted, who had joined Canadian thrash metal band Voivod by that time, was Trujillo's replacement in Osbourne's band during the 2003 Ozfest tour, which included Voivod. Before the band's set at the 2004 Download Festival, Ulrich was rushed to the hospital after having an anxiety seizure and was unable to perform. Hetfield searched for last-minute volunteers to replace Ulrich. Slayer drummer Dave Lombardo and Slipknot drummer Joey Jordison volunteered. Lombardo performed Battery and The Four Horsemen. Ulrich's drum technician Fleming Larson performed Fade to Black, and Jordison performed the remainder of the set. Having toured for 2 years in support of Saint Anger on the Summer Sanitarium Tour 2003 and the Madly in Anger with the World Tour, with multi-platinum rock band Godsmack in support, Metallica took a break from performing and spent most of 2005 with friends and family. The band opened for the Rolling Stones at SBC Park in San Francisco on November 13 and 15, 2005. 2006 to 2013, Death Magnetic and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. In February 2006, Metallica announced on its official website that after 15 years, longtime producer Bob Rock would not be producing the band's next studio album. Instead, the band chose to work with producer Rick Rubin. Around the same time, a petition signed by 1,500 fans was posted online in an attempt to encourage the band to prohibit Rock from producing Metallica albums, saying he had too much influence on the band's sound and musical direction. Rock said the petition hurt his children's feelings. He said, "Sometimes, even with a great coach, a team keeps losing. You have to get new blood in there." In December 2006, Metallica released a DVD titled The Videos 1989 to 2004. Which sold 28,000 copies in its first week and entered the Billboard Top Videos chart at number 3. Metallica recorded a guitar-based interpretation of Ennio Morricone's The Ecstasy of Gold for a tribute album titled We All Love Ennio Morricone, which was released in February 2007. The track received a Grammy nomination at the 50th Grammy Awards for the category Best Rock Instrumental Performance. A recording of The Ecstasy of Gold has been played to introduce Metallica's performances since the 1980s. Metallica scheduled the release of the album Death Magnetic as September 12, 2008, and the band filmed a music video for the album's first single, The Day That Never Comes. On September 2, 2008, a record store in France began selling copies of Death Magnetic nearly 2 weeks before its scheduled worldwide release date, which resulted in the album being made available on peer-to-peer clients. This prompted the band's UK distributor Vertigo Records to officially release the album on September 10, 2008. Rumors of Metallica or Warner Brothers taking legal action against the French retailer were unconfirmed, though drummer Lars Ulrich responded to the leak by saying, "We're 10 days from release. I mean, from here, we're golden. If this thing leaks all over the world today or tomorrow, happy days. Happy days. Trust me, and, by 2008 standards, that's a victory. If you told me 6 months ago that our record wouldn't leak until 10 days out, I would have signed up for that." Death Magnetic debuted at number 1 in the US, selling 490,000 units. Metallica became the first band to have 5 consecutive studio albums debut at number 1 in the history of the Billboard 200. A week after its release, Death Magnetic remained at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and the European album chart. It also became the fastest-selling album of 2008 in Australia. Death Magnetic remained at number 1 on the Billboard 200 album chart for 3 consecutive weeks. Metallica was one of 2 artists whose album, the other being Jack Johnson's album Sleep Through the Static, remained on the Billboard 200 for 3 consecutive weeks at number 1 in 2008. Death Magnetic also remained at number 1 on Billboard's hard rock, modern rock, alternative and rock album charts for 5 consecutive weeks. The album reached number 1 in 32 countries outside the US, including the UK, Canada, and Australia. In November 2008, Metallica's record deal with Warner Brothers ended and the band considered releasing its next album through the internet. On January 14, 2009, it was announced that Metallica would be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on April 4, 2009. And that former bassist Jason Newsted, who left the band in 2001, would perform with the band at the ceremony. Initially, it was announced that the matter had been discussed and that bassist Trujillo had agreed not to play because he wanted to see the Black Album band. However, during the band's set of Master of Puppets and Enter Sandman, both Trujillo and Newsted were on stage. Ray Burton, father of the late Cliff Burton, accepted the honor on his behalf. Although he was not to be inducted with them, Metallica invited Dave Mustaine to take part in the induction ceremony. Mustaine declined because of his touring commitments in Europe. Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax performed on the same bill for the first time on June 16, 2010, at Warsaw Bawice Airport, Poland, as a part of the Sonosphere Festival series. The show in Sofia, Bulgaria, on June 22, 2010, was broadcast via satellite to cinemas. The bands also played concerts in Bucharest on June 26, 2010, and Istanbul on June 27, 2010. On June 28, 2010, Death Magnetic was certified double platinum by the RIAA. Metallica's World Magnetic Tour ended in Melbourne on November 21, 2010. The band had been touring for more than 2 years in support of Death Magnetic. To accompany the final tour dates in Australia and New Zealand, a live, limited edition EP of past performances in Australia called 6 Feet Down Under was released. The EP was followed by 6 Feet Down Under, Part 2, which was released on November 12, 2010. Part 2 contains a further 8 songs recorded during the first 2 oceanic legs of the World Magnetic Tour. On November 26, 2010, Metallica released a live EP titled Live at Grimey's, which was recorded in June 2008 at Grimey's record store, just before the band's appearance at Bonnaroo Music Festival that year. In a June 2009 interview with Italy's Rock TV, Ulrich said Metallica was planning to continue touring until August 2010, and that there were no plans for a 10th album. He said he was sure the band would collaborate with producer Rick Rubin again. According to Blabbermouth.net, the band was considering recording its next album in the second half of 2011. In November 2010, during an interview with The Pulse of Radio, Ulrich said Metallica would return to writing in 2011. Ulrich said, "There's a bunch of balls in the air for 2011. But I think the main one is we really want to get back to writing again. We haven't really written since, 06, 07, and we want to get back to kind of just being creative again. Right now we are going to just chill out and then probably start up again in, I'd say, March or April, and start probably putting the creative cap back on and start writing some songs." On November 9, 2010, Metallica announced it would be headlining the Rock in Rio festival in Rio de Janeiro on September 25, 2011. On December 13, 2010, the band announced it would again play as part of the Big Four during the Sonosphere Festival at Knebworth House, Hertfordshire, on July 8, 2011. It was the first time all of the Big Four members played on the same stage in the UK. On December 17, 2010, another Big Four Sonosphere performance that would take place in France on July 9 was announced. On January 25, 2011, another Big Four performance on April 23, 2011, at the Empire Polo Club in Indio, California, was announced. It was the first time all of the Big Four members played on the same stage in the US on February 17, 2011, a show in Gelsenkirchen, Germany, on July 2, 2011, was announced. On February 22, a Big Four show in Milan on July 6, 2011, was announced. On March 2, 2011, another Big Four concert, which took place in Gothenburg on July 3, 2011, was announced. The final Big Four concert was in New York City, at Yankee Stadium, on September 14, 2011. In an interview at the April 2011 Big Four concert, Robert Trujillo said Metallica will work with Rick Rubin again as producer for the new album and we're really excited to write some new music. There's no shortage of riffage in Metallica world right now. He added, the first album with Rick was also the first album for me, so in a lot of ways, you're kind of testing the water. Now that we're comfortable with Rick and his incredible engineer, Greg Feidelman, who worked with Slayer, actually, on this last record, it's my hero, it's a great team. And it's only getting better. I really believe that. So I'm super excited. In June 2011, Rubin said Metallica had begun writing its new album. On June 15, 2011, Metallica announced that recording sessions with singer-songwriter Lou Reed had concluded. The album, which was titled Lulu, was recorded over several months and comprised 10 songs based on Frank Wedekin's Lulu, Plays Earth Spirit and Pandora's Box. The album was released on October 31, 2011. The recording of the album was problematic at times. Lars Ulrich later said Lou Reed challenged him to a street fight. On October 16, 2011, Robert Trujillo confirmed that the band was back in the studio and writing new material. He said, the writing process for the new Metallica album has begun. We've been in the studio with Rick Rubin, working on a couple of things, and we're going to be recording during the most of next year. Metallica was due to make its first appearance in India at the India Rocks concert, supporting the 2011 Indian Grand Prix. However, the concert was cancelled when the venue was proven to be unsafe. Fans raided the stage during the event and the organizers were later arrested for fraud. Metallica made its Indian debut in Bangalore on October 30, 2011. On November 10, it was announced that Metallica would headline the main stage on Saturday, June 9, 2012. At the Download Festival at Donington Park and that the band would play the Black Album in its entirety. Metallica celebrated its 30th anniversary by playing 4 shows at the Fillmore in San Francisco in December 2011. The shows were exclusive to Met Club members and tickets were charged at $6 each or $19.81 for all 4 nights. The shows consisted of songs from the band's career and featured guest appearances by artists who had either helped or had influenced Metallica. These shows were notable because Lloyd Grant, Dave Mustaine, Jason Newsted, Glenn Danzig, Ozzy Osbourne, Jerry Cantrell, Apocalyptica, members of Diamond Head, and King Diamond joined Metallica on stage for all appropriate songs. In December 2011, Metallica began releasing songs that were written for Death Magnetic but were not included on the album online. On December 13, 2011, the band released Beyond Magnetic, a digital EP release exclusively on iTunes. It was released on CD in January 2012. On February 7, 2012, Metallica announced that it would start a new music festival called Orion Music Plus More, which took place on June 23 and 24, 2012, in Atlantic City. Metallica also confirmed that it would headline the festival on both days and would perform 2 of its most critically acclaimed albums in their entirety, the Black Album on one night, and Ride the Lightning on the other. In a July 2012 interview with Canadian radio station 99.3 The Fox, Ulrich said Metallica would not release its new album until at least early 2014. In November 2012, Metallica left Warner Bros. Records and launched an independent record label, Blackened Recordings, which will produce the band's future releases. The band acquired the rights to all of its studio albums, which were all reissued through the new label. Blackened releases were licensed through Warner's subsidiary Rhino Entertainment in North America and internationally through Universal Music. On September 20, 2012, Metallica announced via its official website that a new DVD containing footage of shows it performed in Quebec in 2009 would be released that December. Fans would get the chance to vote for 2 setlists that would appear on the DVD. The film, titled Quebec Magnetic, was released in the U.S. on December 10, 2012. 2013 to 2019, Metallica, Through the Never and Hardwired to Self-Destruct. In an interview with Classic Rock on January 8, 2013, Ulrich said regarding the band's upcoming album, "What we're doing now certainly sounds like a continuation of Death Magnetic." He also said, "I love Rick Rubin. We all love Rick. We're in touch with Rick constantly. We'll see where it goes. It would stun me if the record came out in 2013. Also in 2013, the band starred in a 3D concert film titled Metallica, Through the Never, which was directed by Antal Nimrod and was released in IMAX theaters on September 27. In an interview dated July 22, 2013, Ulrich told Ultimate Guitar, 2014 will be all about making a new Metallica record. He said the album will most likely be released during 2015. Kirk Hammett and Robert Trujillo later confirmed the band's intention to enter the studio at the second Orion Music Plus More festival held in Detroit. The band played under the name Dehan, a reference to actor Dane DeHaan, who starred in Metallica, Through the Never. The band performed its debut album Kill 'Em All in its entirety, celebrating the 30th anniversary of its release. On December 8, 2013, the band played a show called Freeze 'Em All in Antarctica, becoming the first band to play on all 7 continents. The performance was filmed and released as a live album the same month. At the 56th Annual Grammy Awards in January 2014, Metallica performed One with Chinese pianist Lang Lang. In March 2014, Metallica began a tour called Metallica by Request, in which fans request songs for the band to perform. A new song, titled Lords of Summer, was written for the concerts and released as a first take demo in June 2014. In June 2014, the band headlined the Glastonbury Festival in an attempt to attract new fans. Ulrich said, "We have one shot, you never know if you'll be invited back." In November 2014, Metallica performed at the closing ceremony of BlizzCon 2014. In January 2015, Metallica announced a Metallica Night with the San Jose Sharks, which featured a Q&A session with the band and a charity auction benefiting the San Francisco Bay chapter of the Sierra Club, but no performances. They were announced to headline Lollapalooza in March 2015, returning to perform there for the first time in 20 years. On May 2, 2015, Metallica performed their 3rd annual Metallica Day at AT&T Park. Metallica were also announced to play at X Games for the first time at X Games Austin 2015 in Austin, Texas. On June 14, 2015, Hetfield and Hammett performed the Star-Spangled Banner live via electric guitars prior to Game 5 of the NBA Finals between the Cleveland Cavaliers and Golden State Warriors at Oracle Arena in Oakland, California. In late October, the band unveiled a new website with an introduction from Ulrich containing footage from the studio of the band working on new material. On November 2, Metallica were announced to play, the night before, Super Bowl 50 at AT&T Park. Metallica announced they would be opening the U.S. Bank Stadium on August 20, 2016, with Avenged Sevenfold and Volbeat as support. In April 2016, during the week leading up to Record Store Day, for which the band was its ambassador for 2016, Ulrich told Billboard that the band's expanded role within the music industry had played a part in the amount of time that it had taken to write and record the album. "The way we do things now is very different than the way we did things back in the days of Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning. Nowadays we like to do so many different things." Ulrich was also optimistic that production of the album had almost reached its completion. "Unless something radical happens, it would be difficult for me to believe that it won't come out in 2016. On August 18, 2016, the band announced via their website that their 10th studio album, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, would be released worldwide on November 18, 2016, via their independent label, Blackened Recordings. They also unveiled the track listing, album artwork, and released a music video for the album's first single, Hardwired. The album was released as scheduled and debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. Metallica announced they would be touring the US and Canada in summer of 2017 for the Worldwide Tour. The stadium tour also includes Avenged Sevenfold, Volbeat and Gojira as supporting acts. On August 7, 2017, Metallica was invited by the San Francisco Giants again for the 5th annual Metallica Night, with Hammett and Hetfield performing the national anthem. In January 2018, the band announced that they would be reissuing the $5.98 EP Garage Days revisited on April 13 for Record Store Day, and the 6th annual Metallica Night was also announced a few weeks later. This time in April, with all proceeds going to the All Within My Hands Foundation, which the band created in late 2017. In February 2018, the band announced a second set of North American tour dates, most of which for cities that they had not visited in up to 30 years. 2019 to present. Further activity in 72 seasons. In an interview with Australian magazine The Music's official podcast in March 2019, Trujillo said that Metallica had begun jamming on new material for its next studio album. I'm excited about the next record because I believe it will also be a culmination of the two previous records and another journey. There's no shortage of original ideas. That's the beauty of being in this band. He estimated that the album would be released a lot sooner than the previous two did. This time around I think we'll be able to jump on it a lot quicker and jump in the studio and start working. We've all vowed to get this one going sooner than later. In an interview with Australian magazine Mixdown the following month, Hammett said that the band had tentative plans to enter the studio after the conclusion of its worldwide tour. He stated, "We're in our third year since Hardwired. Maybe we can get a bit more focus and go into the studio a bit sooner." After not contributing any writing to Hardwired, to Self-Destruct, Hammett said regarding his ideas for the new album, "I have a ton of material. I've overcompensated, so I'm ready to go anytime." In March 2019, Metallica announced that its worldwide tour would continue into Australia and New Zealand in October with Slipknot in support. Later that month, the band announced that it would perform at the grand opening of San Francisco's new Chase Center with the San Francisco Symphony in September to celebrate the 20-year anniversary of S&M. The commemorative shows, titled S&M 2, were screened in more than 3,000 theaters worldwide on October 9. The event featured arrangements from the original S&M concerts as well as new arrangements for songs recorded since then and a cover of the Alexander Masolov piece Iron Foundry, and were conducted by Edwin Outwater and San Francisco Symphony music director Michael Tilson Thomas. S&M 2 went on to earn $5.5 million at the box office, making it the biggest global rock event cinema release of all time. A second screening was later announced for October 30 as a result. In August 2020, the band announced that they would release the S&M 2 performances as an album, DVD and box set. In July 2019, Metallica announced a set of South American tour dates for April 2020 with Greta Van Fleet in support. In September, ahead of that year's Global Citizen Festival, it was announced that Metallica would perform at the following year's festival in September 2020 alongside artists such as Billie Eilish, Miley Cyrus and Coldplay. In what would be the final event of Global Poverty Project's year-long global goal, Live, the Possible Dream campaign. The following day, on September 27, Metallica announced that Hetfield had re-entered a rehabilitation program and that its Australia, New Zealand tour would be postponed. In a statement by Ulrich, Hammett and Trujillo, the band spoke of the devastation of the news, saying that Hetfield had been struggling with addiction on and off for many years, and that all tickets would be fully refunded. Ulrich later added that Hetfield was in the process of healing himself, and that the band hoped to return to Australia and New Zealand in 2020. The band's other commitments, including a benefit concert in March 2020, were still expected to continue as planned. A further 5 U.S. festival appearances were announced in October. These shows were later postponed or cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic and to support Hetfield's recovery. In March 2020, the band began a series on YouTube and Facebook called #Metallica Mondays, where they streamed full archived shows every Monday to relieve boredom while staying home and social distancing amid the pandemic. In May 2020, while in quarantine, Metallica performed a virtual acoustic version of Blackened, titled Blackened 2020, which was later made available for download. In an interview with Mark Benioff in April 2020, Ulrich stated that Metallica could work on its next studio album while in quarantine. Trujillo told the Vinyl Guide in June that the band was excited about cultivating new ideas for its new album. "We communicate every week, which is really great. So we have our connection intact. What we've started doing is basically just really concentrating on our home studios and being creative from our homes and navigating through ideas and building on new ideas. And that's where we're at right now." He also said that the band was working towards eventually entering a studio to record the album. On August 10, 2020, Metallica played a show at Gundlach Bundschuh Winery in Sonoma, California, which was only attended by a few crew members. And it was recorded and played for drive-in movies across the US and Canada on August 29. In May 2021, the band announced that they would do one more #Metallica Mondays on May 24 to benefit their All Within My Hands Foundation. The concert dates to September 6, 2018, in Lincoln, Nebraska. On Labor Day, September 6, 2021, the band's All Within My Hands Foundation raised $377,450. Metallica teamed up with workwear brand Carhartt on the initiative, with the clothing brand donating all of their sales proceeds on the holiday to the band's Metallica Scholars Initiative, which provides opportunities to people interested in pursuing essential workforce jobs. On November 28, 2022, the band released the single, Lux Eterna. On January 19, 2023, Metallica released the second single titled Screaming Suicide. On March 1, 2023, Metallica released the third single titled If Darkness Had a Sun. On March 30, 2023, Metallica released a music video for the album's title track, 72 Seasons. The band released their 11th studio album 72 Seasons on April 14, 2023.